Voy a gritar un momento, vale, a ver si no distorsiona el micro. ¡Ué! Vale, perfecto. Subtítulos en español no hay, ¿no? Como siempre, para no variar. En inglés, va.
The city is back and it's exciting.
A ver si no es un coñazo, ¿eh?
That really gets to the soul and the heart of downtown New York filmmaking.
It's about the vibrance of the culture of New York, and we pull it all together with films, games, immersive experience.
We share our narratives now differently.
There are so many more things that games can be.
Ever since I was a kid, I would play video games 24/7.
Every time I wanted to relax, every time I wanted to step out of the world for a bit.
You know, some people might say, well, go read a book. And I'm like, I don't want to read a book. I want to be in an interactive adventure. I want to feel like I'm part of the story.
I am Julián Cordero and my game is Despelote.
Goodbye Volcano High.
Stray Gods.
A Highland Song.
Chants of Sinnoh. Nightscape.
The Expanse.
Welcome.
Welcome to Tribeca Games.
I must have climbed the hill behind the house 100 times. I know every stone. But after that hill, there's another. And then another again. And after all that...
Bueno, puede estar en el juego, no sé.
And I've never been there.
Podría llegar a estar bien. Joder, que alto hablas de hombre.
As Moira McKinnon, a teenager on her way to the sea for the first time. But to get there, you're going to have to find your way through the wild mountains and the valleys. You'll have to survive the weather, and you'll learn a bit about the stories and the history of the Highlands on the way.
Inkle is an independent game studio based in the UK, and we specialise in narrative games, so we make games in all sorts of genres, but our main focus is on games that tell really strong stories.
Our most famous game is probably 80 Days, an adaptation of Jules Verne's classic novel.
The main hook of 80 Days is that you can go around the world any way you like. The way that Highland Song works is extremely similar to 80 Days. You start in one particular point and you can choose all sorts of different
Tiene pinta de que se va a ser un coñazo,
in order to reach your goal.
Pero ¿qué es lo que hay?
But it also ends at a single point because you're trying to reach the lighthouse where your Uncle Hamish lives by the sea.
Finding the right gameplay for a game like a Highland Song can be really difficult. Gameplay is usually built around loops and patterns, but good narratives aren't made out of loops. We want to make sure that the character isn't doing anything just for the sake of gameplay, but everything the character's doing has to make sense within the narrative.
So the reason that we've essentially created our very first platforming game is that it just makes sense for the character within this scenario to be jumping and scrambling over rocks. And it even has a rhythm action.
Hola, Yago. Tenemos, gracias por pasarte, amigo. Tenemos sorteitos activos por ahí, vale. Estoy viendo el evento de Tribeca, pero tiene pinta de que va a ser un coñazo. Si llegamos a 13 follows más, hacemos un sorteo de $20, 20 euros de Neva, ¿vale?
She gets affected by weather and affected by nighttime and affected by cold. A lot of our mechanics are built around the tension between knowing where you are and being lost.
A ver, el juego este no tiene mala pinta, pero creo que no es de los que jugaría yo. Aquí en Twitch, si llegamos a 13 follows, te sorteamos una tarjeta de Neva de 20 euros, ¿vale? Lo que tú quieras, de Steam, de Epic Games, de lo que haya en el Neva. Y después los pases de batalla en TikTok, en un vídeo que tengo... Un vídeo que tengo anclado en TikTok, 2 pases de batalla de Fortnite, ¿vale? Ya.
I grew up in Scotland. When I was a teenager, I went up into the Scottish Highlands with 3 friends and we got lost and we had to stumble through rivers and bogs. It was really quite a chilling, scary experience. My parents are art historians and there was always one painting in particular that they had that I used to love as a child. It had a little ruined castle by a loch and these Scots pine trees and this golden...
9 horas, 16 minutos, más o menos. Estuve todo el día jugando a Fortnite y estuve un ratito jugando a Yu-Gi-Oh! Un ratito antes de empezar este evento, estuve jugando a Yu-Gi-Oh! Estuve por lo menos 7 horas y media jugando a Fortnite.
And then assembling them as a huge collage, but then all built up so that the overall effect is of a painting coming to life.
Lo que no se te ha actualizado, Yago.
I really want them to come away with a strong sense of the place, the Highlands.
El Fortnite, vale.
There's this tension in that place between being full of story and history and the marks left behind by people, whether that's
Sí, ya me imagino que hablabas de Fortnite. Perdona, Yago, que estoy un poquito espeso. Después de tantas horas. Y tiene pinta que el evento este va a ser un coñazo. De media hora a 2 horas, madre mía, tío. ¿Pero qué estás? ¿Por wifi?
Imagine, what do I want on my Switch for me to play right now? And pretty much a Highland song as the way it looks and feels popped into my head, and I can't be prouder of what we've created.
¿Qué juegas a Switch?
Co-op is a game studio that's based originally in Montreal, but is now remote and worldwide.
Despacito, despacito, llevo unos días sin subir ningún santuario, pero voy despacito, pero seguro. Pues si tienes Switch, ahora te enseño.
And we all vote on what we think is what everybody would like to work on.
A ver, espera un segundo. Si juegas en Switch y no te queda más remedio que jugar por wifi, tienes que llamar a la compañía de teléfonos para que te liberen los puertos. Y si puedes, pídate un cacharrito de estos. A ver si se ve. Sí, un cacharrito de ese que es por USB, que tiene el RJ45 detrás. Y juegas a velocidad normal con el cable de internet. ¿Ya te cargaste ganos? No, yo no he hecho nada todavía de la historia, solo el principio. Porque lo quiero jugarlo en directo todo seguido. Lo que pasa es que son muchos santuarios, ya sabes. No debería haber hecho este evento, Me parece que va a ser un rollo. Espero que no dure mucho.
Because like at the time this was kind of like the hot thing to work on was dating sims, and then we were like, hold up, here's the hook.
152, te van a llevar Descubiertos unos 80. Pero subidos a YouTube creo que llego 35 o 36.
You know it's gonna happen.
And that was really important to us because we wanted to make something that could tap into the anxiety of our current times. And dinosaurs was a really great way to create that metaphor instantly.
As it went on and we became kind of more ambitious and more interested in making what we actually like, we were like, what if it's an anime and we tell a story that isn't necessarily so focused on dating, but really goes deep into the emotional aspects of the end of the world.
So high school already feels like it's the end of the world.
No, yo bus no
It's
uso.
really that hard to hone in.
Los bus no los uso. A ver,
It's really the hope that's tricky.
lo de clonar diamantes en Fortnite, eso viene muy bien, Yo no lo he hecho, pero lo he de hacer. Lo de clonar los diamantes,
Those are things that
dinerito,
feel
dinerito.
impossible to cling to, especially with something that can't be stopped and feels inevitable, like a giant meteor hitting you.
And communities all across the continent reacted to the news of a previously unknown space object this morning.
So, how do you deal with that?
It starts off very joking. They're kind of making gallows humor jokes.
In light of the whole space rock, potential demise of civilization thing, my chosen theme feels off.
What's the theme?
Using this year to, make an impact?
Our characters all have different methods of coping. Some double down on their ambitions, determined to accomplish their dreams before it's too late. Others slow down and decide to savor what time they have left, regardless of what their dreams are.
We can still win Battle of the Bands, asteroid or not.
The player character essentially ends up being the UI. And you
Pues sí, va a ser un coñazo. Espero que no dure mucho, Menudo coñazo. Enséñame un juego de bueno, por lo menos. Bueno, que esto no es tan mal, pero no son de mi estilo, tío.
I think this means she's rooting for us?
Music is really important in Goodbye Volcano High, and I would actually say music is really important to our studio and all of our games. It's core to our DNA, and music is central to the identity of the people who make the game, and so it is central to the identity of
Para el año que viene ya sé que el de Tribeca no lo tengo que dar. Menudo coñazo.
Separate from the narrative. It is
¿Cuánta gente está dando el de Tribeca?
a scene of dialogue, but you're playing music.
Pues creo que nadie más que yo. Por lo menos de los que sigo en Twitch solo lo estoy dando yo. De los que sigo en Twitch. A no ser que estén en YouTube.
Fang is kind of gearing up for their future as a musician and then realizing that they may not have a future anymore. So those
Pues lo resubiré lo de Tribeca tal cual, chicos.
music they're creating and singing in the game.
Sí, ya lo sé, ya lo había visto. Sí, lo había visto, que te dan una armadura
I think every
especial.
person hopes that they get to be near people they love and who understand them and that love them. Those are things people can grasp no matter how much time they have left.
I think that this game really encourages people to be brave, to do the brave thing, and love each other and be there for each other, even when it's scary, even when you don't know what's going to happen.
Bonjour, je suis Julien.
Bonjour, je suis Thomas.
Nous sommes les
Mais là,
cofondateurs
t'es
de
bien.
Disque et nous sommes ici pour vous parler de Chants of Scénar.
Avec Chant of Scénar, nous avons voulu proposer une aventure originale basée sur le mythe de Babel.
On a essayé de vous plonger dans la peau d'un voyageur qui débarquerait dans un pays complètement inconnu.
Tout au long de son ascension, le joueur va rencontrer 5 peuples différents. Chaque peuple a ses propres coutumes, sa propre histoire et évidemment sa propre langue.
Comme chacun de ces peuples parle des langues différentes, ça fait des siècles qu'ils ne se comprennent plus. Une partie du jeu et de l'aventure va consister à comprendre les raisons de cette division et peut-être essayer de rétablir l'harmonie dans la tour.
Ah, pero a mí las guías no me gusta hacerlas, por eso las subo yo. Las guías de los demás no me gusta hacerlas, prefiero hacerlo a mi manera, aunque me cueste un poco, voy a ir subiendo los santuarios a YouTube. Hay algunos que me han costado, pero la mayoría son fáciles. Los que más me han costado, como soy un manco, son los de peleas. Los que hay que pelear. Pero eso es culpa mía, soy un manco. No es que sean difíciles, es que soy yo.
Château Sonar est avant tout un jeu d'aventure. Au-delà de l'aspect puzzle, le joueur devra explorer l'environnement, interagir avec différents personnages.
Chicos de YouTube, no os preocupéis, voy a quitarle un ratito la cámara, ahora la pongo, ¿vale, chicos?
De créer un héros qui serait plus un traducteur, un diplomate, un scientifique quelque part. Et qui soit
para saber dónde están los santuarios, yo también, eso sí, eso lo miro, uso la de la página web, no me acuerdo ahora cómo se llama, que tiene todos los santuarios y te dice dónde están, eso sí. Pero como se hacen, no. Lo que la cámara. La quise por un motivo, bebito.
Européenne des années 70-80, puis plus tard on a élargi les inspirations du jeu, on a convoqué le brutalisme, l'architecture mauresque, l'architecture indienne, et c'est ce qui nous a permis de créer ce monde un peu pluriel.
Es que, a ver, los santuarios, para saber dónde están, tienes que seguir una guía, sí o sí. Porque si te pones a buscar por todo el mapa, igual te da un infarto. Porque es muy grande.
Sur ce scénar, ce contexte est voué à être dépassé, puisque les langues y sont à la fois l'obstacle et la solution. On espère que vous aurez du plaisir à découvrir la tour, à résoudre ses mystères et à nous aider à réunifier ces peuples.
Et évidemment, nous avons hâte d'avoir vos retours.
Mi bebito, ¿quieres cofre?
Nightscape is a 2.5.
Ya que estás tú solo por ahí, si quieres cofre, pongo uno pequeñito.
You play as Layla, who is an astronomer who just loves to look at the night sky.
As Layla, players wield a magical astrolabe, restoring stars back to constellations in order to seek a path home.
Sí, porque me apetece, la verdad.
The stellar cast member is the Goat Kid constellation. The Goat Kid decides to accompany.
Pues lo vas a necesitar para los corazones, sí, ya.
I don't know much about constellations and the stories behind them, especially Arabic constellations.
They're different from the Western or the Greek constellations. And so we've had a big research task finding out what those constellations mean, what the backstories are, and finding out how we can turn those ideas into gameplay elements.
Ahí lo tienes, bebito.
The importance of the sky is having this sky-ground connection. Having Layla use the constellations abilities to solve puzzles.
Ya estoy en el evento, vale. ¿Cómo fuisteis?
Sí, fuimos a tomar unas copitas y a tomar tamboriñas.
Bueno, ya empezamos.
Y a tomar tamboriñas, alitas de
This is a
pollo
brand new
picante.
experience for me, building a team from the ground up.
Unas cuantas
An
cositas
amazing
más.
level designer
Vale.
in Bill and
Vale.
coder in
Y después no
Greece.
comes.
And very recently
Bueno,
we
yo
found
no tengo la
out
culpa.
that
Por haber comido muy mal de
house of
peligro.
the studio.
De todas
And
maneras,
I think is really genuinely
hoy ya
amazing
hace
that
frío que
the
sabes
guys
Nicolás
were
este,
willing
¿verdad?
to work with us in
¿Nicolás?
I
Sí,
was
traje una
very
para cada
unsure
uno.
about the amount of talent for making video games.
Traje solo una para cada uno porque
And
estaba a
I think
20 y
we
pico
got
de
super
kilos.
lucky finding
No,
the
tú estás
team.
majareta. Va,
For
igual,
me,
luego
it all
hablamos.
starts with a story
Venga,
and
chao.
pictures that triggers my imagination. It triggered immediately some music in my mind. Beautiful Middle Eastern melodies to take.
Bueno, sí, pero lo de la savia Mineru no lo sabía. No me spoiléis el juego, porfa.
That it comes together as a blend.
In my mind, designing sound is a bit like playing with clay, like trying to model this clay, this sound, manipulate, edit, cut. For example, the hook shot is mostly made by a tree branch, the footstep of a scorpion walking, which is a mix of knife.
Hasta que termine esto, bebito.
The voice of a scorpion is my voice, actually. And then overly processed. When the scorpion attack, when the scorpion die, attack, that's
No, hasta que termine esto. Que estoy matado.
Particularly The part where the player is trying to figure out the puzzles.
Being in a country like the Philippines where...
Y además es un coñazo, si lo llego a saber no lo hago,
So, looking at the stars was one of my hobbies.
Vale, la vuelvo a poner, chicos.
There's about 65 million people in the MENA region.
Porque solo habla aquí, llevan no sé si 4 juegos presentados y no son de mi estilo. ¿No? A ver, parece que están bien, pero no suelo jugar esta clase de juegos. Normalmente Nintendo Direct y alguno que otro así van al grano presentando juegos. El de ayer fue una pasada, pero...
And ultimately build a bridge towards understanding the Middle East better.
Por lo que veo son juegos así de... No, ¿cómo se llama? Indies, son juegos indies por lo que veo. Hasta ahora son juegos indies todo. Lo que pasa es que en vez de ir al grano se ponen a parlotear. Y al estar en inglés no entiendo un cagao.
The games industry is always absolutely convinced that
hay muy buenos indies que he jugado, pero de ese estilo no me llaman ya.
And proves them wrong.
Stray Gods is a role-playing musical where you control the song. You play as Grace, a college dropout who's not quite sure what to do with her life.
A woman living in the modern world who encounters the last of the Greek muses.
Sí, vale, te pongo una rifa, Yago. Mira qué tal, puse un cofre en TikTok, te pongo una rifa a ti. Y así consigues puntos por si llegamos a la meta. Ahora mismo podrías conseguir 2 tickets para el sorteo.
There are so many elements that go into this game to make it special that you can attach to any one
¿Sí?
of them and have an incredible experience.
Stray Gods is what we call a role-playing musical. It's not really a genre that's...
Automáticamente. Sí, creo que sí, que la cogimos antes en una partida.
Week to prove it. What do I do?
Start singing.
This is a game with branching musical numbers where the key decisions in the story are made in musical numbers that change depending on your choices.
The way that we tackle music is one that people are
Tienes que aprovechar cuando haya predicciones, Yago. Puedes perder muchos puntos, pero también puedes ganar muchos. Estos puntos de aquí de la rifa solo son para sorteos, ¿vale, Yago? Como el de la meta de los 300. Los puntos del canal de Twitch son otra cosa distinta.
Champions like at the end of the day, it came down to our composer last, and you were some kind of dark magic, and you get it all back, and you're like, don't know how you transformed that take into this, but it's absolutely amazing.
Te cuento igual y se lo regalas a quien quieras, bebito.
We have such incredibly complex, thoughtful characters in this game. Every single character in the game has the potential to be a favorite.
My favorite character is Eros.
I really love Aphrodite. I think she is beautiful. Oh no, that's too hard of a question.
My favorite character is, I think, Orpheus.
My king, Orpheus. He's my favorite. It used to be Hermes, but Orpheus, emo king, love.
Look at me, who do you think I am? I'm saying Medusa. I am the #1 Medusa fan in the office.
I love Medusa, and I love Persephone, and I adore Freddie. But my favorite...
I reckon my favorite character is Freddie.
I'm really gonna go against the grain here. My favorite character is Freddie.
Everybody's gonna say Freddie, so I thought I'd say someone else as well.
But my favorite... Oh, yeah, I'll say Freddie. But Medusa and Calliope and Persephone.
Me habían pedido que enseñara el setup, si no me equivoco, ¿verdad? Hoy.
The themes in this game and the story
Lo subiré después.
and the people it's trying to involve and the people it's trying to talk to that I haven't seen on a lot of the games that I've worked on in my career.
We've assembled this superstar group of people. It is a Voltron of game development.
Early on, Liam made a conscious effort to make sure that everyone that we hired culturally fit, but also had a conscious effort to make sure that we weren't hiring the same kind of people.
Every single person who came onto this project brought something wholly and uniquely theirs.
It's one thing to be able to hire to have diverse voices. It's also another thing to make sure that those voices are heard. It's just important for us that everyone, one, feels safe enough to share their opinion, and two,
Regalo de mi
diverse enough
bebito
that
Piu,
many
te quiero
opinions are
mucho.
shared from all sources.
Gracias por la rosa, mi
At the end of
bebito.
the day, gaming is about joy, and I really like being reminded that making games can also be about joy.
Very soon, the idols will be no more.
The Expanse is an exceptional intellectual property in that it's huge and that the characters are the forefront.
¿Cuál vídeo? El de Tribeca, sí. O sea, es como el E3. Es como un Nintendo Direct de... Es como un Nintendo Direct de un Xbox Showcase o un...
looking in at the same story.
So what's unique about the way that we
O un PlayStation de
our
esos.
players' agency over the character they're playing, which basically means that their choices shape the overall story, so they're actually living in the story as opposed to just following along with it.
When you're adapting a television property into a video game property, you have to think about what the fan is expecting and when they're coming into. This takes place years before the first season. We're getting to see the world through Kamina Drummer's eyes. She is a belter, somebody who's out in deep space and has grown up there, has never set foot on a planet, so her perspective is really different.
It's hard for me to look at these moons without thinking about the other research colonies exploiting all the resources on them and giving nothing to the belt.
I hoped to portray her, especially at the beginning of the video game, as a little bit more vulnerable.
Lo subiré una hora antes, vale, porque tengo que calcular, porque hay dos eventos mañana, que eso sí que me gustaría verlos.
Enséñale mi camiseta molona a tus suscriptores.
Ponte de este lado. Ponte detrás mía. Sí, Naruto, tío. Mira la camiseta, chicos, a ver si os mola. A ver, sé que es mejor el modelo, pero... La camiseta está bien, El modelo está mejor, pero la camiseta... ¿Cómo es? Fachera.
We have to think about it from what's a good interaction medium and changing that from what you may have seen in
pues mañana
something that you can grok immediately.
Hay
Sticks, but that is also represented.
Futuro Play a las 5.
Those characters have really complex issues that they're facing regularly, and in narrative games, we want to give players these gray areas to really think, is this the answer I want to...
Futuro Game Shows a las... déjame ver.
Drummer, his suit is punctured and losing pressure. You need to release the vault and patch him now or he could die.
Lo voy a comprobar.
Belay that. That vault has O2, fuel, armaments. We can't afford to lose it.
It was a really interesting challenge to come at the same character in a completely different medium.
Deck 9 is a video game studio. We are known for our narrative, our characters, and our motion capture technology.
It's a completely blank white room. You've got some tape.
Golson Direct, que no sé qué compañía es esa, a las 6. Y Futuro Game Shows a las 7. Y el sábado tenemos el evento de Xbox, el domingo, perdón. Tenemos el evento de Xbox y el de PC. Los juegos de Xbox y los que van a salir al PC. Mañana solo tengo dos. Pues voy a hacer el horario normal. 11 de la mañana, 12 de la mañana, 3 de la tarde, y de 6 a 10.
I work for you, but you don't own me.
Believe me,
I'm well aware.
Just want to make sure you're not having second thoughts about our deal.
Mañana, en el directo de la tarde, haremos los dos directos seguidos, de los dos eventos estos seguidos, el de las 6 y las 7, y después jugaremos, ¿vale? Que aproveche, Yago, gracias por pasarte, amigo. Y eso déjalo de fondo, por si no estás cuando haga la raid, para que farmes puntitos, ¿vale, Yago? Cuando pasen los santuarios, Bebito, tengo que completar los santuarios para hacer la historia todo seguido. Como son 152, los estoy subiendo poquito a poquito a YouTube. Despelote.
I am Julián Cordero, and I'm the lead developer and programmer in Despelote. Despelote is a game about soccer, and it's a slice-of-life adventure game set in 2001, when Ecuador was really close to qualifying to the World Cup for the first time. Everybody was incredibly excited about this moment, and you see it through the eyes
Sí, es el toque, Bebito.
kicking a ball around with your friends in the park.
¿Vamos a jugar?
When I was growing up, I played a lot of soccer. In Ecuador, the culture of soccer is very big, and if you're a boy and you're not playing soccer, it's like hard to make friends. A lot of like my best friends I made were through playing soccer. But then when I moved to the US, I wasn't really watching or playing soccer for a few years. That sort of made me like take a step back from it. I sort of like realized this, and I was like, oh, like this had such a big role in my life. I wanted to make this game to sort of like figure out what it was that was really interesting about soccer growing up. When I started making the game, the first thing I focused on was this like relationship with the ball, and like making the ball like this physical object.
Un poquito, la verdad.
More than
porque
like
me gusta mucho
like,
hablar con vosotros en el
I
chat.
knew that I wanted to just like your relationship with the
Es
ball.
de lo más
and, like, how
divertido
that
que me parece ser
your
streamer.
environment. Immediately was thinking, okay,
Hablar con vosotros en directo.
and there was this artist and musician, Sebastián. I really liked his work.
My name is Sebastián Balbuena, and I am in charge of the art in Despelote. That includes 2D animation, 3D modeling, and also the music. This is actually the first video game.
Hoy pensé que me iba a costar bastante más leer el chat con la gente que estuvisteis, la verdad.
Feel very physical and this like the physical connection with the ball.
We wanted to find a graphic style that could communicate emotions.
Pero fue bastante sencillo. Igual si hubiera 50 o 60 no, pero con los que estuvisteis os leía a todos, que es lo que importa.
Around like his previous work and his style sort of feels very nostalgic to us to have these like backgrounds with this like very grainy aesthetic. That was just very important to have that dynamic.
Lo único que me paré un poquito
the characters being so
cuando empezamos con lo de con el que me llamó con el que me llamó el que dijo sorteo falso. Eso sí que me mosqueó bastante, pero por lo demás un montón de buena gente que se unió me empezó a seguir hoy.
So we're using a lot of pictures, and the buildings are all real buildings.
Some of the voices are from people that we knew. We wanted to have the same
Normal.
feeling
A ver,
that
yo siempre voy a intentarlo. Cuanto más seamos, más difícil me va a ser, pero intentaré leeros a todos, ¿vale?
So that's why we went with the
Siempre intentaré leeros a todos.
It's all improvised, really. We like approached a lot of friends and family in Ecuador. The parents.
Por eso tengo el chat de TikTok y de Twitch ahí, aunque a veces se me escapan de Twitch.
The scene we said is it's
Pero intento que no se me escape muy a menudo.
Economic crisis, and there's this idea we can qualify to the World Cup, and that's like really exciting. And it's been great because I think it's bringing in a lot of this like sort of communal understanding of the moment.
No creo que ni lo suba a YouTube. Bueno, lo voy a subir igual. Pero lo voy a cortar del resto del directo. ¡Jugando fútbol! Gracias por el follow, amigo. Hola, ¿qué tal? Aquí reaccionando Tribeca. Tengo dos sorteos activos. Uno en mi canal de Twitch, reacción Games. Que si llegamos a 300 seguidores, que faltan 13, sortearé una tarjeta de $20 de Neva, ¿vale? Y después hay un vídeo anclado en mi canal de TikTok, que si sigues los pasos puedes ganar uno de los pases de batalla que sorteo 2, ¿vale? Jugando fútbol.
Pelota in Spanish means ball, And despelote is sort of a saying that people have, is like, esto está hecho un despelote, is like, this is a mess. So it's sort of like a play on words, like ball.
Quedan 6 y abrimos cofre.
Sí se puede, which is what the
Y menos menos
which means, yeah, we can do it.
de 4.000 likes para abrir otro.
Sí se pudo. Like, we can do it, and we already did it. Like, that's not something my parents were able to, like, grow up with. People, like, grasp onto it so much, and I think it, like, really gave a lot of people so much hope. And I think for me, like, that being, like, one of my earliest memories, it sort of made me grow up thinking, like, oh yeah, like, yes, we can. I hope that people really enjoy just running around in Quito. I think we've built it in a way that is based on a lot of our memories. Instead of, like, trying to recreate it directly one-to-one, it's more of like a fuzzy memory. And I hope that feels very, like,
hola Miguel, gracias por volver, amigo. Estoy con este aburridísimo evento de Tribeca, tío. Pero gracias por pasarte, amigo.
Ese Cavieres, ahí está sacándose la camiseta.
Hoy me saturó bastante el Fortnite, Miguel. Madre mía, las horas que lo he jugado. ¿Ya? ¿Terminó? Vale, perfecto. Pues ala, a chicos de YouTube, aquí está la reacción al evento de Tribeca, lo voy a subir tal cual, sin editar, ¿vale? Que fue un coñazo. Recordad, suscribiros y darle al like si os gusta el contenido. Nos vemos a la siguiente, chicos. Perfecto, ala. Pues los que estéis por ahí, si queréis ganar puntitos, voy a hacer la raid de Twitch, ¿vale? Así que si queréis pasaros para Twitch y vais farmando puntitos para los premios del canal, ¿vale? Como el PC, las consolas y eso, ¿vale? No, sí, me voy. Vale. Os doy un momento por si queréis pasaros al Twitch. Aunque esté con la música, estaré esperando un momentito, ¿vale? Muchas gracias, chicos, todos los del TikTok de hoy, muy grandes, los que pasaréis por Twitch también. Nos vemos mañana, chicos.